Hi, good afternoon. It's Neil Russell and Philip Roach. We're here in Nordhavn, Europe, just on our first ever web interaction here with any buyers that are out there, or any owners, or anybody interested in Nordhavns.
Just to let you all know that Neil and I obviously work together, but because of COVID-19, we are still self-isolating. So Neil's in one of our satellite offices, and I'm at home, to be honest. I don't have pictures normally of Nordhavns on the walls, but
yes, you do.
We've just set this up so we can talk together. Starting question, actually, just about talking through the brokerage process. About we'll be talking about new boats, brokerage boats, service, whatever you want to speak about. But the brokerage process is quite an interesting one. Normally, what happens is if a customer or an owner is looking to sell his boat, they usually contact us just to have a chat to begin with and discuss what they're looking to do. Whether they're looking for a new boat, whether they're looking to get out of boating, the reasons are various. Fortunately, we haven't, even during the sort of recessions that we've faced over the last period, we don't really have the sort of the fire sale where people are desperate to get out of their boat. It's a lot calmer than that normally, and that's actually helps within the marketplace, because you don't have the highs and the lows, just depending on where it stands. The pricing in Nordhavn stays pretty much constant. So when an owner has decided that they're looking to sell, we put together a listing, we put together the details of the boat. That's taken from obviously when it was built, plus additions. We got to see the boat, talk through the boat, what's been done, service work. Neil actually started this off a couple of years ago with doing a sort of a vessel history. So we know what's happened with the boat, whether it's have been any accidental damage or lightning strikes, these sort of things, which normally brokers don't really ask. But our policy is very much, we want to know about these things, because yes, selling the boat is important, but also the new relationship with potentially any of you out there is equally as important. So we don't want to have any nasty surprises a little bit further down the line. So when the boat goes onto the marketplace, we primarily use Nordhavn Europe site, obviously PAE's Nordhavn.com, and Yacht World. They're really where we advertise the boats. And Yacht World is a very good facilitator of good leads for us. Boats tend to be on the market for a little while, but they gather interest that grows, and then we start, obviously, in the old days, getting people on board to show. It's more difficult at the minute, which is why we've really been concentrating on doing a lot of video work, 3D modeling. That introduction, which we'll play again later, was done by a video company we've been using recently, and they've done some amazing work in terms of 3D scanning the boat, so you can get to every inch of the boat without actually setting foot on board.
If I could just interject, actually, a case in point there, Phil, was L'Adagio, which is Nordhavn 76, hull number 10. The owner is a European, and the buyer was actually Italian but lived in Florida. And he put his offer in without seeing the boat, but just studying the 3D tour. He said he spent literally hours on the computer studying the 3D tour, and he had we basically confirmed the sale before he'd actually seen the boat. And the power of this 3D modeling that we use along with the video is really extraordinary. The detail that you can get to is fantastic. And the modelling, whether it's a video or the tour, you don't get the fisheye sort of rounded shape that you do on many videos. This is really first class, very, very professional. So on the brokerage side, you'll be seeing us use that a lot more in the future, and frankly, we'll be doing it on new boats as well. So people out there who are wanting to see the new models can see them sort of brand spanking new, as it were, when they're coming out the box.
Yeah, we've got the hull number 3 of the 41s is coming to the UK, hopefully towards the end of the summer, and we'll be 3D modeling that so people can get the actual onboard experience. So we're very, very much looking forward to that. So yeah, the process, once somebody's made an offer and it's been accepted, the process, we highly recommend having a surveyor. Do we recommend surveyors in Europe? We've worked with many, but there's a few that we think work best. Obviously, it's the owner's decision or the buyer's decision of who he wants to use, but we much prefer seeing somebody who knows our boats well get on board and can really study them properly, as opposed to a more sort of all-round surveyor. The other thing we've been doing recently is we've been recommending good engineers to do an engineering survey as well as a structural survey. In that way, I think it gives people gives the buyer a better insight into what's going to need to be done. Maybe not straight away, but maybe in 6 months or a year's time, and it gives them the confidence to feel that the boat is right for them. Once that's done, Neil and I have very much taken the new owner, whether it's new or brokerage, very much under a wing, and we do a lot of training with the new owners, learn the systems, learn how to handle a boat, and really spend a lot of hands-on time physically aboard their new baby. That's been really important, and I'm hoping that our buyers have appreciated that over the years. It's something that it's the best part of the job, frankly. So we enjoy doing it. Just another comment there was somebody said, do you take non-Nordhavns and trade-ins? In all honesty, if we can avoid it, we do. In fact, we avoid it like the plague. Trade-in is always going to be a sticky thing for us, in the fact that we need to protect yourself. So probably the price that I would give you for your old baby is not what you would be particularly happy with. What we do is, if we need to, and we've done this with non-Nordhavn models, is we can markets, put them onto the marketplace and broker the boat for you. We've done that with a couple of non-Nordhavns, and which is actually quite good fun, because it stretches one. Neil and I are sort of cut us in half when we say Nordhavn, so it's quite funny dealing with different brands. You can't quite put your heart and soul into it, quite frankly, but that's because we're spoiled with this brand.
As regards trades, it's financially better for the person offering the trade, the owner offering the trade, to actually put the boat on the market himself, because there is an element of risk for us. So we need to place the what we offer for the trade quite a bit below what we know the market value is. So because we will end up carrying the risk. So as Phil said, we do rather shy away from the trades. Just going back onto the brokerage side, obviously that's a good sort of summary of what we do on the brokerage side. But on the we do work with the surveyors, and actually there's a very good site or association called the Yacht Brokers and Designers and Surveyors Association, YBDSA, who offer whole list of surveyors that can look at that you can contact and engage. But there are surveyors who specialize in sales, surveyors that specialize in power, which is fantastic. But a surveyor that actually understands the concept of a trawler yacht or expedition yacht is dare I say, they're not thick on the ground. So you need to ask sensible questions so they understand what they're about to survey. But along with the brokerage side, we do offer we do perform the whole financial transaction. That's sort of producing the paperwork, holding the funds. We have client accounts both in US dollars, sterling, and euro. So we really do the whole financial transaction. Very few people actually, when you get up into the big boats, sort of 96 and 120s, then some people start to engage solicitors or lawyers, but on the whole, we do the whole process from beginning to end.
Just going to ask a question there about worldwide brokerage. Obviously, we concentrate on European buyers, both new and in brokerage, but those European buyers basically are coming to us, and we're doing worldwide searches for boats. Neil and I have sold many boats, either based in the States or based outside of the European Union, and the demand is always there for Nordhavns, but the supply sometimes isn't. And so if you're after a particular model, you really have to look. It's a worldwide search. A European buying an American spec boat, it has to be, if it's going to come back into the EU, it has to be CE certified. We've done lots of that, working with several companies. The boats themselves don't need a huge amount of change, but they have to go through that process to have it CE certified. And that's something that, again, we get fully involved with if it's a European buyer. We recently just sold a boat called Relish, a Nordhavn 60. That was bought by a European buyer. Boat was in Florida. He brought it back across, dropped in, well, basically went to the Med, spent a few years in the Med, and has just put it on the market. So he brought it up to us to Hamble, which is where our head office is. And we brokered the boat, and it's been bought by a Canadian. So it's a very much, this is a worldwide market for boats. And I think if you are considering a Nordhavn, you have to, your expectation of where that boat would be, you need to look beyond, your home country, as it were. It's a worldwide marketplace for these boats.
Yeah, it is. Although there is CE regulations and emissions and that sort of good stuff. There is a cutoff as regards age of boat, and that actually I made a mistake. It's not really an age of a boat. It's actually the engine, the main engine. It's only the main engine, not generators or wing engines. It's only the main engine that will enable the boat to be CE, in European terms, CE certified or not. So, if somebody's looking at a 1997 Nordhavn 57, if a European's looking at that and the boat's in the States, we can pretty much put a hand on our heart and say that boat will not pass CE, and it's all down to the engine and the engine serial number due to the emissions. If the boat was in use in Europe prior to the CE regulations coming in, then that's fine. The boat can stay in use, but it's anything being imported into Europe. There is a process that needs to be checked out before any purchase has taken place. So we're obviously here to do that footwork and protect the buyer. If it's a European buyer, I think if you're buying an American or a non-European boat of a certain age, we're here to sort of help them through the process. And we've done it actually a few times, and with the end result being some disappointed potential buyers, but we've managed to feed them into products that are either here in Europe or younger Nordhavns that pass them.
Nordhavns. Another interesting question there, Neil, was why do some boats stay on brokerage market while others languish? Then there's just an anecdote, just somebody's put there about a 50 that was listed one day and had an accepted offer. It's a really good question. What the expectations are, you never really know. I think the expectation of sellers tend to be, because they've got a reputation for holding value well, quite often people are looking to put the boat on at probably a little bit more than we would suggest, but that's their prerogative. So some boats can stay on the market for a little bit of time because maybe the pricing's wrong. Maybe it's in a position, maybe the boat is actually located in a position that's difficult to get to. But Neil and I have had, we've had several boats in weird and wonderful places, and we've tried to persuade the owners to bring the boat to, ideally we like the boats to come back to Hamble in the UK, so we have the boats here to show readily. And if they are in places that are difficult to get to, selling them is an issue. And again, the 3D mapping and all that is helping, but locality is an important thing. There's also just a swing in the marketplace. We had a few years ago, we probably were at 10 55s on the market, and everybody's going, what's wrong with the 55? Why are so many in the marketplace? and they all sort of stood there for quite some time, and then it was like a domino effect. One sells, then the next one sells, and there's a domino effect as the rest suddenly, within sort of 6 months, they'd all been sold. At the minute, if you said to me, what would you like to, if you could bring a brokerage boat to the market, what would it be? I think Neil and I both agree. If you have a 43 and want to sell it, come and talk to us, because we've just sold 2 during lockdown, which again, amazing. Thank you to the two buyers and the 2 sellers who we managed to get this to happen during COVID, and there was a lot of goodwill on both sides of the equation to get these 2 boats done. We would happily sell another 43 tomorrow if we had one to sell. So again, the smaller boats in the market, because we're not building them now, the brokerage market is really strong for them. So 40s, 43s, 47s, we haven't got enough of them, frankly. So.
But it's interesting, Phil. I mean, the 47 on our side, just in Europe here, we had, what is it, 3 years ago, we had 4 or 5 Nordhavn 47s sitting on the brokerage market, and we were sort of scratching our chins, wondering what was going on. And literally within 6 months, they'd all been sold. And I think a lot of potential buyers, a lot of buyers will be out there looking at the market, looking at what's on the brokerage market, and sort of biding their time. And then, one sells, and then there's a little bit of a, not panic, but oh, golly, that's the one I wanted, and it sort of gets starting blocks, which is obviously great, but it's not necessarily a price thing. It's just people wanting to see what else comes onto the market, and then you end up with 2 or 3 or 4 on the market, and then why are they on the market? And there's a little bit of a doubt possibly that comes in until the first one sells, and then the others sell fairly quickly. It's quite strange.
Yeah, it's really, if talking to 47s, within that tranche, we sold a 47 to a couple who really, they bought the boat probably a couple of years before they had time to use it to the full extent that they wanted. They're still working, still very active in the jobs that they're doing, but the right boat came along and they took that opportunity, and good on them. Neil and I have spoken to so many people who've waited or labored in the process and still haven't owned, we've got people going back 10, 15 years who still haven't owned a boat. And, time is something that is limited, and, your cruising time of really being able to go out there and enjoy it. I don't want to be fatalistic here, but if you can do it, do it. Don't mess about. And, if the right book comes along for you, that's be serious about making that offer, really.
A question: when new models come out, do they have an effect on resale value of retired models? Yeah, good question. Do they? Not really, because well, they do and they don't. I mean, again, it comes back to the brokerage values. The case in point would be maybe the Nordhavn 55 moving to the 60. Yes, I'm quite sure that did have an effect. Although, we had 2 or 3 Nordhavn 55s in build when the 60 came out, and certainly 2 out of those 3 owners said, no, I wouldn't have chosen the 50, the 60. I would, if it was available, I would still stay with the 55. And the other guy, can't quite remember what he thought, but he wasn't particularly perturbed about it. But as regards value, I think that the 60 was a big enough step for a buyer to consider. Well, shall I stay with the 55, or shall I stay with the 60, or shall I pay that much more for the 60? So it does sometimes have an effect. Although, when you get into retired models, there is normally quite a following for certain models. So the Nordhavn 62 in the States has a fantastic following, as does the 46. and those are the models that people want if they are in that group that follow those. I always sort of liken the 46 and the 62 to the VW camper van or the VW Beetle. I mean, there seems to be a sort of fan club for these things, for those sort of vehicles, and it's the same with the Nordhavn 46 and 62, which is basically the Generation 1 boats. But you look at the Generation 2 boats, which is the 50 and the 57. Oh, fantastic boats! Quick.
I mean, I think the effect really. I mean, you look, Neil, when the 55 was first produced, and we were still building the 57. The 57 sales stopped on new boats because the 55. It had a hot tub and it had a fantastic pilot house with an extra cabin up there, and it sort of killed the 57 sales, new boat sales. But the brokerage, the desire for that 57, it still remains. It's still an amazing boat, and it's, in a way, in some features, it's better than a 55. In other ways, the 55 is a far superior boat. But there's no such thing as a perfect model, and it doesn't necessarily have an effect. It had an effect in the fact that we weren't producing new boats, but the resale values, again, weren't hit desperately hard with the 57s. They're still a very desirable model. Again, the 57, I mean, that was the first boat. That was the first Nordhavn. I'm getting all nostalgic now, but that was the first Nordhavn I sold. I sold 5740, which was a stock boat, luckily very soon after joining the company. And that was my first major trip on that boat, was the 57, and it's phenomenal. It's just just an amazing bit of kit. But in terms of accommodation and layout and everything that 55 offered, it wasn't quite the same. So I mean, yes, it will have an effect, but I think that can be a positive and a negative thing. The fact that we've retired the smaller boats now, the 40, 43, 47, 40. The desire for those boats on the brokerage markets, it's phenomenal at the moment. So yeah, it is swings and roundabouts with that.
Yeah, good point.
Another question here. Assuming I retire in 2 years, how long should I allow to find my perfect brokerage boat? 2 years. That's how long I need. Planning ahead.
That's pretty fast in our.
Yeah, planning ahead is really what most people who are approaching us are doing. We hardly. Well, it does happen occasionally, but from point of first contact to buying a boat can be anything up to 10 years, 12 years. Well, we've recently sold a brokerage boat to a lovely couple who we met at the very first Düsseldorf boat show back in 2006. So 14 years later, they now own a Nordhavn. So the planning process can be a long one. I think if the ideal lead, if you like, is somebody who approaches us either through the web or through the main Nordhavn site or a boat or whatever it might be, and says, I've been following the brand for a little while now, and this is what I'm looking to do, and this is what I want to achieve. And they've done quite a lot of the thinking pre actually contacting ourselves or any other salesman within the organization. They tend to be the ones you think, right, if they've done the research, they know what it's all about. I would suggest if you're retiring 2 years and you want to buy a brokerage boat, you need to be looking now. You may not want to be purchasing right this moment, but as I said earlier, if the right boat comes up, it may not be there from when your time for going cruising is about to start. So you really need to be thinking ahead on this, and use the sales guys, use the team up with somebody who you like and is close by to where you are, and quiz them a lot about what's going on. We get to hear rumors about boats coming up, or maybe owners are thinking about selling, and quite often we'll have a pocket listing. It might not be out in the market, but we know that if the right person came along, that they may sell. And we've done several of boats like that over the last few years. So yeah, keep in touch with with your contacts. And certainly, you know, I can think of 2 or 3 people that you know, are on the back burner at the minute, waiting for the right boat to come along. So,
how often are there listings that never make it to Yacht World or the internet?
Quite a few. I mean, we've done this pocket listing thing. Is again, I urge you to form a good relationship with a salesman that you can get on with and trust. There's only a few of us.
Yeah, actually, rephrase that, Phil. A PAE Nordhavn salesman. I mean, there are plenty of other brokers, salesmen, whatever you want to call us, out there who say they have the knowledge, but they don't. They don't have the connections. They don't have the access to the project managers. They don't have the access to Jim Leishman, Dan Street, Jeff Leishman. It's critical. Get to know a Nordhavn specialist broker, all right? And they have Nordhavn over the door as you walk in, so you will get much better service if you do, rather than going through an outside broker.
Good point, Neil. Good point. But yeah, keeping in contact with that person, and you know, you will get to hear about other boats coming up, pocket listings. You know, Neil and I have got a couple of pocket listings at the minute. They're usually sensitive in the fact that we've got one pocket list in the minute because the boat's in an area where really we can't put it on the open market because of local laws. So you know, there's things. There's boats there waiting that may not actually be appearing on Yacht World or on our sites, all the rest of it. But yeah, Neil's exactly right. If you're interested in an Nordhavn, speak to people at PAE and Nordhavn Europe. That's the best way forward in any of these things, because the backup and support you'll get is exceptional.